Today, at age 76, as I weather the autumn of my own life, I find nature a trustworthy guide. It's easy to fixate on everything that goes to ground as time goes by, the disintegration of a relationship, the disappearance of good work well done, the diminishment of a sense of purpose and meaning. But as I've come to understand that life composts and seeds us as autumn does the earth, I've seen how possibility gets planted in us even in the most difficult of times. In the visible world of nature, a great truth is concealed in plain sight. Diminishment and beauty, darkness and light, death and life are not opposites. They are held together in the paradox of the hidden wholeness. In a paradox, opposites do not negate each other. They cohabit and co-create in mysterious unity at the heart of reality. Deeper still, they need each other for health, just as our well-being depends on breathing in and breathing out. When we so fear the dark that we demand light around the clock, there can be only one result: artificial light that is glaring and graceless and beyond its borders, a darkness that grows ever more terrifying as we try to hold it off. Split off from each other, neither darkness nor light is fit for human habitation. The moment we say yes to both of them and join their paradoxical dance, the two conspire to make us healthy and whole. When I try to fabricate a life that defies autumn's diminishments, I end up in a state that's less than human. When I give myself over to organic reality, to the endless interplay of darkness and light, falling and rising, the life I am given is as real and colorful, fruitful and whole as this graced and graceful world and the seasonal cycles that make it so. Though I still grieve as beauty goes to ground, autumn reminds me to celebrate the primal power that is forever making all things new in me, in us, and in the natural world.
We pause on the brink of the season of early nightfall. We breathe in and we breathe out in a time of uncertainty, on the brink of yet more change. In the darkness, there can be quiet. In the darkness, there can be rest. In the darkness, there can be wisdom. In darkness, we often find out that there is nothing to be afraid of in the dark. We recall to our hearts and souls those who have kept us company in the dark, who have helped make darkness womb-like and safe, who held our hands when we stumbled and said, "I've been here too. I will help you find your way," or sit and wait with you for the light to return. We bless them for their companionship, their strength, their patience. We recall to our hearts and souls those who dwell in darkness for one reason or another yet today. May the darkness for them be a place of incubation and tranquility. May they not suffer and flail and injure themselves or others. May they have in their lives those who will hold torches of hope aloft so they may understand and not panic. Holy One of light and of darkness, of autumn falling and of the dormant seed, may we abide together in the unknowing, with patience and with compassion for ourselves and for others. Blessed be. Amen.
quenching my tears through all the years, singing. Voice still and small, deep inside all, I hear you call, singing. In storm and rain, sorrow and pain, still we remain, singing. Calming my fears, quenching my tears through all the years, singing.
I had my first telemed appointment with my primary care doctor today, just a routine checkup. And I had to have the intake questions with the nurse practitioner, the questions that we've all heard a billion times by now. Have you had any flu-like symptoms? Have you been around anyone with COVID? Have you gone to a rally without a mask and shaken hands with people who think the coronavirus is a hoax? You know those questions. And there was a mental health screening question too, asking whether I've been depressed. And I wanted so much to say, is anyone not depressed right now? And I didn't mean it as a joke, and I decided not to say it because I didn't want to seem flippant, but I'm genuinely wondering what Glenda has been hearing from all of her patients. D.H. Lawrence, in part of a longer quote that I love and think about a lot, said, "I am not a mechanism, an assembly of various sections, and it is not because the mechanism is working wrongly that I am ill." No one is a mechanism. And for those of us who are riding waves of major anxiety right now, looking toward daylight savings time, election day, post-election days, with a leery eye and launching into some anticipatory grief or mental confusion about upcoming holidays and winter in general, our mechanisms are actually responding wonderfully well if they're feeling unwell, if you know what I mean. In other words, if you are feeling situational depression, which is different from the disease of clinical depression, I want to say, you may be sick, but there's nothing wrong with you. When I submitted a quote for my graduation ceremony from my spiritual direction training with the Hezekiah School for Spiritual Direction last Friday, I submitted a phrase from Psalm 42, deep calls to deep. And I thanked the other spiritual directors for being deep divers with me. It is in the deep realms of ourselves that we access the divine spark, the holy groundedness, not just in our own specific lives, but in the life of creation itself. It is of utmost importance in this time that all of us trust that the deeper reality is there and it is real. And that we cultivate our relationship with that reality. It is in that connection where we will find our most secure wholeness, that soul integrity that cannot be violated, the soul that has its rootedness not in the fluctuations of our medical health or in our financial or political situations, but in God, in ultimacy. In that place is your sanctuary, is your sacred space. So make that chamber beautiful. Bring it fresh flowers. Carefully tend it within yourselves. Tend and protect it well, especially as we gear up for shorter, darker days and all that the coming months will demand of us. A filmmaker named Craig Foster got very burnt out in his work, and he lost the burning ember of the sacred at his deep center. In his documentary, My Octopus Teacher, he shares how he literally went into the cold, choppy waters of False Bay off of Cape Town, South Africa, to explore the kelp forest there and to try to come back to a more vibrant life. As you see some of the images that I'm going to share, you may notice that Craig does not wear a wetsuit. This is an intuitive choice he says he made so that his encounter with the elements and the animals of the ocean wouldn't be bordered by anything but his skin and a small breathing apparatus. Right away, as I imagined how unbelievably cold the waters must be, I shrank into myself shivering and I thought, oh no, I could never. But Craig Foster said, yes, it's really, really cold and initially shocking. But what he decided to do was to go back to the ocean every single day as a spiritual discipline. And he reported that after a few months, and I'm thinking, a few months? That he's really stuck with it. Your body starts to crave the cold. That comment has stayed with me. What he's describing is not just a biological shift, but the transformation that occurs through regular spiritual discipline. Practicing piano, meditating on a cushion, or plying oneself into yoga positions. Pulling ourselves out of bed to serve human need by cooking or stocking food on a pantry shelf. All of these disciplines, a word that has the same root as disciple, are usually initially physically uncomfortable and may remain so for quite a long time as the body and the deep self shape themselves in accordance with the soul's commitments. When we create and enter sacred space enters and creates us, and it changes us. While diving every day, Craig Foster developed a fascination with and ultimately a relationship with an octopus. It's just a gorgeous film. Their growing trust and rapport makes for a riveting story, and it feels like an honor to be able to see the kelp forest environment and the octopus's life so clearly and so dramatically. There are many spiritual takeaways from the film. One for me was, oh yes, nature is inherently violent. Eat or be eaten. Even our lovely and sensitive octopus teacher finds new and creative ways to trap her prey, and the film features plenty of footage of her. It almost looks like she's kind of gleefully pouncing on fish or crabs and devouring them. We are also reminded that there is always something out there ready to bite your arm off. But that arm can heal and grow back, which hers does over 100 days. Sorry, that's a spoiler. At one point in an encounter with the octopus, Craig Foster drops his camera and she flees away in fear. Foster feels bereft and he worries that he's lost the connection with the octopus forever. And he determines to return to the area surrounding the cave that she usually stays in to see if he can find a trace of her. And what he does next is simple, but it's really profound. What he does is he just goes back every day to the same underwater terrain that he already knows very well, and he pays extremely close attention to it. He goes down into that deep place, and instead of rushing around, investigating and peering through kelp and swimming around into caves, he actually slows way down. He tracks. He backtracks. He attunes himself to the beloved, to the object of his yearning. And maybe you might think it's kind of strange to have an octopus as the object of your yearning, but to him, she represents mystery, and she's beautiful. She possesses an obvious intelligence and sentience. Foster pursues her with respect and reverence because of what she is for her own sake, but also because he is gaining scientific knowledge from her, and I think most importantly, he's learning about himself from encountering her. This encounter with the other, this reverent attentiveness, is transforming him. And so he tracks her. Is that the trace of an octopus arm, or is it just a crab that has moved there along the sand? Are those bits of shell evidence of her having fed here? He goes over and over the same places, seeing them fresh each time, going more deeply into his inner vision and intuition, those gifts of the divine that busy Westerners may go a lifetime without accessing or experiencing. Eventually, they reunite, the deep sea animal and the earthly animal, and the rest is for you to see if you choose to. I promise that it is worth your time, deeply moving and, again, exquisitely beautiful. The darkness, the cold, the pandemic, all will draw our lives into an even tighter circumference, a more circumscribed territory in the coming months. We can resent this. That would be natural and understandable. We can resist this and plan excursions as far away as possible. Also understandable to do that and very relatable. Certainly my own instinct. We can hibernate, sleep through it. We can go deep into a cave of healing or into a cave of avoidance, of isolation. Those are all legitimate animal responses. What I recommend is that we prepare. First, that we prepare, that we offer ourselves, our skins bare in the metaphorical sense, to that cold, to its clarifying and bracing properties. As Greg Foster suggests, this offering of self, this willing engagement, may lead us to even come to desire the cold. Second, we can become reverent trackers of our own terrain, as Craig Foster was in searching for that which represented mystery and creation to him. Rather than miserably missing pleasures that are not safely available to us right now, we might choose to go to our own streets, our own woods, our own yards, our own kitchens, our own minds, our imaginations, our own skies, our own beaches, to pay careful and again reverent attention to what is there, to really focus and really notice what lives and dies around us, to show that to our children, to help them become better noticers and lovers of what is right around them, to discover what depth and poignancy may be found by tracking and tracing, returning again and again over the same territory, to pay such close attention and with so much respect that the life of that place becomes part of us and we of it. Perhaps there will not be much newness, but there can be profound closeness. Craig Foster says of his octopus teacher at the end of the documentary, "What she taught me was to feel that you're part of this place, not a visitor. There's a huge difference. The part of you that knows that it is a part of this creation and not just a visitor is a sacred space. I hope that in time to come, whatever comes, we will all tend that place well, cultivate it, nurture it, and protect it. When we honor the sacred space within ourselves, we create sacred space when we are together, even in spirit."
Make sacred space.